Imagine stepping into an elevator late at night, the building quiet, the hallways empty. The soft hum of the lift feels normal at first, the gentle flicker of the floor numbers glowing above the doors. But then, something strange happens. Instead of stopping at your floor, the elevator keeps rising. Past the top floor, past the place where the building should end. The numbers vanish. The screen goes black. And before you know it, you're being carried into a level that no one has ever seen. A place wrapped in complete darkness. This is not just a rumor, it's something residents have whispered about for years. Tenants of the old tower swear the elevator has a mind of its own. Some say it only happens when you ride alone, usually past midnight. Others claim they've heard voices in the shaft, like faint echoes of people who never returned. At first, these stories sound like the kind of urban legend kids make up to scare each other. But then you start hearing the same details again and again, from people who don't even know one another. One man swore he pressed the button for the 12th floor, but the elevator passed it without slowing down. Another woman said she felt the air grow colder and heavier as the lights inside flickered. And when the doors opened, there was nothing but pitch black and empty space, like stepping into nowhere. Some believe it's just a mechanical glitch. Others whisper it's something much darker. Something tied to the building's past. So tonight, we're going to dive into the mystery of the elevator that never stops. What lies beyond those impossible levels? Is it just shadows and silence or something waiting in the dark? Stay with me, because this story takes a turn you won't expect. And the scariest part? No one knows where the ride truly ends. The building itself has always carried a strange reputation. It was one of the first high-rises in the area. Built decades ago, when the neighborhood was still quiet and almost forgotten by the city. People moved in because of its affordable rent and central location, but soon stories began to spread. Residents would mention odd sounds in the hallways, lights that flickered even after electricians checked the wiring, and of course, the elevator that sometimes acted like it wasn't under anyone's control. Most of the tenants tried to laugh it off. They would say, "It's just old," or "That's what happens in buildings like this." But those who had their own strange encounters couldn't ignore them. One elderly man who had lived there for over 30 years recalled hearing about extra floors from the very first week he moved in. He said younger tenants disappeared suddenly, breaking their leases with no warning. When asked why, they only muttered something about the elevator. What made the mystery even more unsettling was how random it seemed. The elevator could work fine for weeks, and then one night it would begin its strange journey upward or downward into places no one could explain. Maintenance crews inspected it again and again, and every report came back the same. Mechanically, the lift was in perfect shape. No loose cables, no faulty circuits. Nothing that could explain the way it sometimes refused to stop. Whispers about the elevator soon turned into fear. That spread through the entire building. Families warned their children never to use it after dark. Neighbors began to share their own experiences in hushed tones, each one eerier than the last. A young couple said they rode it late one evening only to feel the floor shake beneath their feet. When the doors opened, they swore they saw a long corridor with peeling wallpaper that didn't match any part of the building. Terrified, they hit the close button again and again until the elevator finally jolted back to reality. At the same time, another subplot unfolded. The building manager, Mr. Harris, tried to downplay the rumors. He insisted the elevator had passed every safety check and accused residents of exaggerating. But people noticed he never took the elevator himself. He always chose the stairs, even when carrying heavy files. Some believed he knew more than he was willing to admit. Others thought he was simply scared of the very thing he kept dismissing. One night, the tension inside the building reached its breaking point. A storm rolled in, thunder shaking the windows as rain hammered against the glass. The power flickered, plunging the hallways into brief bursts of darkness. That was when a group of tenants, fed up with the whispers and fear, decided to face the mystery head-on. They wanted to know if the stories of hidden levels and the endless ride were real or if they had all just been feeding each other's imagination. Among them was Claire, a university student who had already experienced the elevator's strange behavior twice. Her curiosity outweighed her fear, though she admitted her hands trembled as she pressed the button. Beside her stood Mr. Ramirez, a quiet man who claimed his brother vanished years ago after taking the same elevator. He had lived with unanswered questions ever since. Others joined too, hoping to finally uncover the truth that had haunted the building for decades. As the doors closed, a hush fell over the group. The panel lights glowed normally at first, the elevator humming as it climbed. But soon the familiar unease set in the feeling of rising higher than the building's limits. The numbers blinked, stuttered, then went blank. A low vibration filled the air, not mechanical, but almost alive, pulsing through the floor beneath their feet, as the group stood frozen before the impossible hallway. Claire whispered that the lights inside seemed to flicker in rhythm with their heartbeats. No one wanted to admit it, but they all felt it, the strange pull drawing them forward. Then, just as Mr. Ramirez stepped closer, something unexpected happened. The elevator doors behind them slammed shut with a force that made the walls shake. The panel lit up again, but this time the buttons were gone. In their place glowed a single symbol none of them recognized. Faint and pulsing, like it was alive. Panic rose in the small space. One tenant pounded on the doors, demanding they reopen, but the elevator didn't respond. Instead, the floor shifted beneath them, almost like the lift wasn't a machine anymore, but something breathing, carrying them deeper. That was when Claire noticed the strangest detail of all. Their reflections in the mirrored panel didn't match their movements. While they stood frozen in fear, their reflections were moving ahead, stepping confidently into the hallway as if leading the way. Gasps filled the elevator as the mirrored images vanished one by one, disappearing into the impossible corridor. It was as if the elevator had chosen their doubles, sending them forward into whatever existed beyond those doors. But the real question lingered: what would happen when their reflections reached the end? Would they come back, or would something else return in their place? The elevator groaned, as if straining under a weight it could no longer carry. The air grew heavier, pressing on their chests, forcing each breath. The glowing symbol on the panel pulsed faster, filling the space with a low hum. The group clung to the walls, unsure whether to fight the strange pull or surrender to it. Claire's eyes stayed locked on the open hallway, where their reflections had vanished moments before. She swore she saw a shadow moving back toward them, but it wasn't in step with any of their own bodies. The shadow grew clearer until, at last, something stepped into view. It was their reflections, but changed. The figures looked older, worn, as if they had been walking that endless corridor for years. Their eyes glowed faintly, and their movements felt unnatural, like marionettes being pulled by unseen strings. Panic surged through the group as the reflections reached the threshold, threatening to step back into the elevator. In a sudden burst of courage, Mr. Ramirez pressed himself against the panel, slamming his hand over the strange, glowing symbol. The elevator shook violently, and the doors slammed shut, cutting them off from the figures outside. The lift dropped with terrifying speed, lights flickering wildly, everyone clinging to the rails as their stomachs lurched. Just when they thought it would crash, the elevator stopped with a soft chime. The doors opened, and to their shock, they were back in the lobby. The normal lobby, as if nothing had ever happened. The building itself grew quieter. Fewer people used the elevator, and many tenants eventually chose to move away. The manager, Mr. Harris, finally admitted he had known about the stories all along. He revealed that the elevator company once warned of a design flaw during construction, a flaw that could never be explained with wires or gears. He confessed he had avoided the lift because he, too, had seen the extra floors once, decades ago, and never wanted to face them again. The strangest part was how the elevator behaved afterward. It still worked, but never in the same way again. The buttons lit up normally, the floors matched, and no one reported seeing the hidden levels. Some said the night Claire and the others wrote it. The cycle ended. Others believed the elevator had simply grown tired of playing with them and was waiting for new tenants to discover its secret in the years to come. For those who lived through it, the lesson was clear. Curiosity had brought them answers, but answers came with a price. They had looked into a place not meant for them, and although they returned, they knew a part of them had stayed behind. The elevator was no longer just a machine, it was a reminder that some mysteries are better left unanswered. And for anyone who dares to step inside after midnight, the hum of the ride will always carry the question, what floor are you really going to?